Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The afternoon sun warmed the terrace of the Sunrise Palace Hotel. Guests strolled around the pool, waiters circulated with trays of cocktails, and the air was filled with the scent of tropical flowers. In the lobby, Marcus Williams, an elegant man visibly tired from his journey, approached the counter to ask for information. The receptionist, Greg Thompson, a man with a forced smile but cold eyes, glanced quickly at Marcus. "Dirty black man, go to the zoo," he said contemptuously, believing he was addressing an ordinary employee or customer, without suspecting for a single moment Marcus's identity. The hall froze. Conversation ceased. All eyes turned to Marcus, who remained silent for a few seconds, his dark eyes burning with suppressed anger. Then, with a slow and deliberate gesture, he took out his business card and placed it in front of Greg. "You're talking to the man who owns this hotel," Marcus said in a calm but icy voice. Greg's face instantly paled. His mouth opened in protest, but no words came out. The customers whispered amongst themselves, some discreetly taking out their phones to film the scene. Marcus leaned slightly towards Greg, still smiling, but this time with a smile that left no doubt about the power he held. "I advise you to think twice before uttering words like those," Marcus murmured. Then, turning around, he continued on his way to the elevator, leaving behind a heavy silence and a terrified receptionist. At that precise moment, everyone in the hall understood that power and respect were not measured by skin color, but by the determination and true identity of the person in front of them. The afternoon sun bathed the city of Miami in a brilliant light. In the luxurious lobby of the Sunrise Palace Hotel, the click of heels on marble and the murmur of guests created an almost hushed atmosphere. Marcus Williams, an elegant man in his 40s, entered the lobby. Dressed in a tailored suit and sporting a gleaming silver watch, he exuded an aura of calm and control. He had a business meeting and was there to inspect one of his properties. At the counter, Greg Thompson, a receptionist for 5 years, glanced quickly at Marcus. Without knowing the man in front of him, and influenced by prejudices he thought were harmless, he blurted out these words. "Dirty black man, go to the zoo." The lobby fell silent. The customers exchanged surprised glances. Marcus froze for a moment, as if time had stopped. He felt anger rising, but his face remained impassive. With a slow, deliberate gesture, he took a business card from his pocket and placed it on the counter. In gold lettering, it read, "Marcus Williams, owner, Sunrise Palace." Greg took a step back, the color draining from his face. His eyes widened, his breath caught in his throat. He had unknowingly insulted the hotel owner. Marcus calmly looked around. Customers were whispering, some were discreetly taking photos or taking out their phones. In a low but icy voice, he said, "I advise you to think before speaking to anyone in my hotel. Understood?" Then, without waiting for an answer, he headed towards the elevator, his suit floating slightly behind him, leaving behind a heavy silence and a terrified receptionist. That day, Marcus Williams showed everyone that true power isn't measured by skin color, but by position and self-control. And for Greg Thompson, it was a lesson he would never forget. Marcus Williams stood in the elevator, staring at the shiny floor. Inside, the low hum of the machine seemed to absorb all tension, but in his mind, everything was perfectly clear. He would never let a humiliation like today's go unpunished. When the doors opened onto the main lobby, he saw Samantha Lewis, the hotel's assistant manager, busy organizing the arrival of a VIP group. She looked up and smiled at Marcus, still unaware that he was the owner. "Marcus, you're just in time," she exclaimed. "We need your signature for the new renovation project." Marcus smiled slightly, the smile of someone who knows he holds all the power. "Thank you, Samantha. I'll take care of it." But before he reached the office, his attention was drawn again to Greg Thompson, who stood at the other end of the hall, frozen and red as a tomato. Marcus approached calmly, and his voice, this time perfectly steady, cut through the air. "Greg, could you prepare a full report of all recent customer complaints and incidents? I want everything on my desk within the hour. Greg stutters. Of course, sir, owner. The rest of the sentence died in his throat. Every word Marcus spoke was a lesson, a demonstration of his position. He was not just rich or influential, he was master of his domain. Meanwhile, the customers present couldn't look away. Everyone understood that a true power struggle had just taken place. Marcus didn't shout, didn't threaten. Everything unfolded calmly, with composure. And that calm was far more intimidating than any shout. Later in his office, Marcus sat down, opened his computer, and began to review the renovation plans, but his mind remained fixed on the incident. He knew this moment could be turned into a public lesson. Soon, Greg Thompson would discover that the insult he thought was insignificant could have far greater consequences than he imagined. And Marcus, for his part, savored the satisfaction of being able to restore order and respect in his hotel without raising his voice. A few hours later, the lobby of the Sunrise Palace Hotel was bustling. Guests waited to check in, while staff moved about with a mixture of stress and discipline. Greg Thompson, still shaken by the morning's incident, was trying to recover from his fright. But Marcus had decided it was time for a lesson. He came down from his office, accompanied by Samantha Lewis. His gaze swept across the hall to Greg, who immediately froze. Marcus stopped in front of him, calm, but every word he uttered carried a terrible weight. Greg. I believe you have something to say to the customers and staff, don't you? Said Marcus, his voice soft but sharp as a blade. Greg stammered, unable to find his words, but the customers surrounding the hall whispered among themselves, seeing the palpable tension. Marcus then pulled out a tablet and played a short video clip. It was the lobby's security camera, which had recorded the insult. The entire lobby saw Greg's words, spoken in that contemptuous tone. Dirty black man, go to the zoo. An icy silence fell over the place. Greg felt all eyes on him, and his face went pale. He tried to apologize. I didn't know. I didn't want to. That's correct, Marcus interrupted, in a calm but implacable voice, you didn't know I was the owner. But now you know your words have a price. Then, calmly, Marcus made a gesture toward Samantha. Take note, Samantha. Make sure Greg receives mandatory training on respect and diversity, and that he issues a public apology to all staff and customers present. Greg nodded, unable to protest. His colleagues and clients applauded softly, impressed by Marcus's calm and composure. Before going back up to his office, Marcus turned towards the hall and said, let this be a lesson to everyone here, respect is not an option, it is an obligation. No matter who you think you are up against, there is always someone who deserves your consideration. As Marcus walked away, the hall gradually emptied of its unease. Greg, humiliated but aware of his lesson, knew that this incident would remain etched in his memory forever. And Marcus had just shown that power can be manifested through calm, dignity and justice, without ever losing his composure. The next morning, the Sunrise Palace Hotel was busier than ever. Guests were still talking about the incident, and some were eyeing Greg Thompson with disapproving glances. The atmosphere was heavy, but Marcus Williams knew exactly how to transform that tension into a demonstration of power and justice. He walked down into the lobby with a calm and engaging smile. This time, he wasn't just trying to correct an employee, he wanted to send a message to all the staff and customers: respect and dignity were the true laws of his establishment. He stood in front of the reception desk and, in his firm but calm voice, said, Dear guests and colleagues, I would like to remind you that our hotel must be a place of respect and safety for everyone. No insults or disrespect will be tolerated here. Greg, who was standing behind the counter, looked down in shame. Marcus gestured towards him. Greg, I would like you to issue a public apology to all the customers who were present yesterday, and to immediately undergo mandatory training on respect and diversity. Then Marcus did something unexpected. He turned towards the lobby, where several employees were still hesitant to speak, and added, And for everyone else, consider this an opportunity to learn. You work here to offer the best to our customers, and that starts with treating everyone with dignity, regardless of their skin color, status, or reputation. At that moment, several guests who had been there the day before approached Marcus to congratulate him. Some shook his hand, others smiled at him with admiration. The hotel's reputation was growing, not because of the size of the building or the luxury of the rooms, but because of the way it protected its values and its guests. Greg, humiliated but aware of the lesson, forced himself to look up and murmured, I'm sorry. Very sorry, Mr. Williams. Marcus nodded, his impressive composure dispelling any remaining tension. He knew that true victory lay not in punishment, but in transforming this humiliation into a lasting lesson for everyone. And in the lobby, as the employees resumed their normal work, everyone understood that Marcus Williams was not just the owner of a hotel, he was the guardian of dignity and respect, and no one would ever again dare to underestimate his authority. A few days later, the Sunrise Palace Hotel became the talk of the town. The video of Greg Thompson's insult, which had gone viral among staff and a few influential guests, had circulated throughout the city. But rather than tarnishing the hotel's reputation, it had revealed Marcus Williams's true power and composure. That morning, Marcus stood in the lobby, observing the harmonious flow of the employees. Every smile, every gesture, testified to the transformation that had taken place since the incident. He knew the lesson of respect had been learned, but he wanted to drive the point home so that no one would ever forget. He asked Greg to come forward. The receptionist was still trembling, ashamed, but Marcus looked at him calmly and said, Greg, today you will apologize in front of all the staff and customers who wished to attend. Greg nodded, his voice trembling. I am deeply sorry for my words and behavior. I promise to respect every person here, without exception. The lobby applauded. Employees smiled, some discreetly wiping away tears of relief and respect. Marcus knew that the humiliation had been transformed into a moral victory, not only for him, but for everyone who worked at his hotel. Then, in an unexpected move, Marcus invited some influential clients who had been there the previous day to join him. Together, they decided to launch an internal awareness campaign on respect and diversity, making the Sunrise Palace a model of tolerance and excellence. Finally, Marcus turned to Greg one last time. Remember, Greg, respect is never optional. But today, you have a chance to show that you can change. Greg, his face still red, nodded sincerely. This time, it wasn't fear speaking, but the recognition of a lesson he would never forget. As Marcus ascended to his office, a profound sense of satisfaction washed over him. The hotel was not merely a place of luxury, but a symbol of justice, dignity, and restrained power. And for all who had witnessed this story, it was clear that true authority lay in the courage to stand up for what is right, even in silence and quiet. The sun was setting over Miami, illuminating the walls of the Sunrise Palace with a golden light, while Marcus Williams, owner and guardian of dignity, looked down on his kingdom with satisfaction.